Hey there, I'm Tracy Rigdon, and this is the Contrast Project Lounge podcast. Often random, but always relevant, always real, and practically nothing is off limits. This podcast is for you. Are you ready for this? Let's do it. Program, everybody. I have joining me today someone from Northeast Florida who has been instrumental in getting what is called the Squatters Bill passed. Miss Patti Peoples. Patti, how are you doing today? And thank you for joining me.
Hello, Tracy. It's a pleasure to be here.
You have been making some waves in the state of Florida. Oh, nationally, you have made national headlines and been on several programs in regards to this.
Indeed, I certainly never thought a year ago today that I would be in the midst of a national news story on the epidemic of squatting, as well as being the inspiration for a particular bill that's passed. So
Right.
I'm delighted that the trauma and the financially challenging and physically and emotionally challenging experience that I had has turned into something positive that can be implemented across the nation.
Right. Explain to our viewers here what exactly it was that began this genesis into the Squatters Bill. You had a personal experience that was traumatic.
I did. In a nutshell, I had squatters in a house that I had for sale. About a year and a half ago, I retired and I invested with a business partner in two properties right in my own neighborhood. I live in Springfield, in downtown Jacksonville,
Mm-hmm.
and it was important to me to explore the arena of real estate,
Mm-hmm.
but to do so in a socially responsible manner. So I intentionally bought houses in my own neighborhood and priced them for rent initially at very affordable prices. And I offered a really excellent, safe, well appointed, sound structured house for rent. And had two great tenants in each of the houses. One of them, because I found that I wasn't really enjoying real estate rental, I decided to go ahead and sell that one. So after the long-term tenant moved out, I placed it up for sale, and it had been vacant about 2 weeks. And I got a phone call that there were animals that were all over the front porch. And then I discovered that I had two female squatters and their children had moved in the day prior. And in fact, they were serial squatters. What I didn't know at the time is
Mm-hmm.
that in the United States of America, when you have a property that you own, you're at risk of someone walking into that property and taking it over and calling
Mm-hmm.
it theirs.
Yeah.
As I got the police involved, they delivered probably the most chilling line that you never want to hear from the police. Yes, yes, you have criminals in the house, but I can do nothing for you.
Oh boy. That's incredible. That's incredible. You mentioned that it's a big problem, and I'll just interject this as a point of reference. It's actually happens all over the world, to be honest with you. I lived in Costa Rica for a while, and I know some investors that have bought property down there in Costa Rica, and quite a few of them are absentee owners. Still living in the
Yeah.
States. They've got property down there. Well, if a Tico moves onto your property and you don't know about it for up to a year, the government of Costa Rica gives them that plot.
Yeah.
Crazy,
Yeah.
but true.
That's very true. There are certain countries that suffer from squatter problems
Mm-hmm.
exponentially more than other countries because of laws like Costa Rica has.
Yeah.
But in even cities like London, Paris, Berlin, all over the world, there are significant squatter problems. And How do we know that, other than personal experience that you have, Tracy?
Hmm.
We know it because there are slaughter groups. Count two slaughter groups. So you can go to a Reddit sub called Swatting, and you can learn anything and everything you need to know about swatting in different cities around the world. You can go surf on over to YouTube and you can download a How to SWAT guide. Visit Facebook, and there are multiple slaughters
Oh,
groups
Lord.
that help inform you of exactly what the local laws are, how to blend in, how to be a successful slaughter. So, if we are to fight this, state by state in the United States, we have to understand that we're not fighting individuals. We are fighting basically a squatter ring, a group
God.
of organized criminals. And I'd like to take a moment, if I could, to help
Hmm.
your listeners understand that squatting is not typically done by unhoused individuals. It is
Right.
not typically done by undocumented immigrants. These are two narratives that are put forth by certain segments of our society
Hmm.
that have a bigger axe to grind with those particular social issues, and it's not true. The vast majority of slaughters are individuals that are essentially taking advantage of the unintended consequences of an old squatting law put in place in the 1800s. They are individuals that are working the system to their benefit. They're smart, they're bright, they're organized, they're capable, and quite frankly, a lot of them are getting other revenue in from multiple sources. I know in my case, my slaughters were receiving government subsidies. They had paid for health insurance through the Affordable Care Act, and they were selling their plasma for hundreds of dollars a month. How do I know this? I found a receipt uh, and a budget because they were going away for a weekend. While they were living in my house, they took a little vacation. I was unable to take a vacation because I was hemorrhaging money. But my slaughters were. And they took a vacation, and I do commend them for budgeting. I really appreciate that. And they had written out a budget for their 3-day weekend. They had budgeted $400 for a hotel
Wow.
for 2 nights. So we're not staying in a roadside motel. They were staying in a nice hotel on the beach. Excuse me. They budgeted $300 for a rental car, and my favorite, they budgeted $240 for weed.
Well, you got to cover all your bases, I guess.
That's right. It was going to be a really excellent vacation once they got to uh their their hotel with a view on the beach in their nice rental car.
Wow.
Then they can tuck away, make sure that it's a really lovely vacation. So they were living their best life on my dime.
Well, I got to tell you, even somebody that does nothing, I guess every now and again they need a vacation from that too.
Well, swatting is hard work because you've
I
got people
guess.
like me that are driving by and harassing you, and that can be very, very difficult. So, they
Yeah,
need a break.
I saw that video of the confrontation that you had with those two individuals. That's just incredible to me.
Yeah,
Physical confrontation.
multiple physical confrontations. That was just one of which was caught on videotape. So, in that case, and it was day two of squatting, and I had been told by the police officers that the only thing I could do, other than to file through the civil court to try to eventually evict them, the only other thing I could do was to drive by frequently and just keep an eye on the house because sometimes they decided to vacate. So, day two, against the preference of my family and against the strongly worded suggestion of my attorney to not engage, I did anyway. And I drove by the house. I saw the front door wide open. And so I thought, maybe I've caught a break here. Maybe they've vacated because we filed a police report yesterday and we're in process of filing evictions. And So I got out of my car and I walked up onto the front porch and saw that the pit bulls that had that were living there yesterday were gone, and the front door was wide open. So I knocked and yelled and said, "Is anyone home?" Went through the sunroom porch and then knocked respectfully on the door facing of the front door. "Anyone home? Anyone home?" And about that time, the squatter came out from the back and immediately started getting aggressive with me. When I told her that she needed to leave, she told me that she owned the house and she had every right to be there as long as it was under review by the civil court. She was right. But that I had to get out.
Mhm.
And I said, "I own this house," at which point she took me and placed her arm across my neck. She probably weighs 3 times what I do, and stole my pepper spray that I had in my hand. And
Wow.
then her girlfriend came over and physically threw me, a 62-year-old woman, out of the front door and onto the concrete porch. Uh,
Hmm.
and that was just the first. When the police arrived, I thought for sure that I was going to have an assault case against them. But you know what they told me? They said, "Miss
What?
Peoples, if you set foot on this property one more time, I will arrest you and put you in jail."
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
They have as perceived renters until shown differently in civil court, they have the right to privacy.
Wow.
I have
Wow.
no rights on my own property. This law across the nation is completely upside down. No more in Florida on July 1st of 2024. That was aggressive and assault incident number one. The
Wow.
second was they threw bottles at my head. They threw bricks at my car and damaged it. One of their friends chased us with scissors in their hand.
Running with
Uh,
scissors. Running with scissors.
yes, exactly. A sign book, by the way. Uh, Augustine Burroughs, right,
That's
is the
right.
author of that. Yeah, I think I could write a chapter for Augustine's book now. Uh, Another incident is they threatened me with a tire iron. They threw human and dog feces at me. And then when we were standing on the sidewalk having a verbal altercation with them, one of the squatters reminded me that they had the right to bear arms and they could utilize the castle doctrine
Oh,
against me.
yay. Yay.
So,
That's amazing. Well, that's something, you were talking about that, they have the right to privacy and you can't get them out of there and that kind of thing. There was several years ago, a movie, Pacific Heights, that
mhm,
that was all about a squatter that turned out to be a
yep,
psycho and completely
Michael
gutted.
Keaton. Yeah,
Exactly. And completely gutted the apartment that he had squatted in. And so I
yeah.
get it.
Well, I have to tell you that it certainly was recommended to me more times than one to utilize one of the tactics that Michael Keaton used in that movie, which was to infiltrate the house
Yes.
with rodents
Hmm.
or roaches or snakes or something. I have to tell you, a lot of things went through my mind. When I would lie in bed at night, just completely infuriated at the unfairness of this and the fact that I had no rights in my own home.
Yeah.
I thought about a lot of things. I thought about a lot of ways that I could do things to those squatters to get them out.
Hmm.
But the truth is, I'm not a violent person. I'm not a gun owner. I am one that would much prefer to solve things with finding agreement rather than
Hmm.
disagreement and working within the law. And I was extremely aware that the fact that I am a white woman of some means and they were black women of lesser means, that this could easily be perceived as a white on black power play. And I
Sure.
didn't at all want that to be the case.
Right.
It was not racial to me. It never was. It was simply the right to access my own property. And so as a result, you will see in every clip that I was nothing but respectful to these women. And in fact, when I met them the first morning that I discovered that they were squatters, my first reaction was empathy. I thought that perhaps they had been scammed by an unscrupulous individual who was
Sure.
claiming to own the house and had rented it. That's another scam in our
Hmm.
nation. And so I sat there and had a nice long chat with her while the police officer was writing up the report. And I said, I'm so sorry. You've got children and, you're going to have to leave. But, if I can assist you with, finding a place to go for the night, I would be happy to do that. It
Hmm.
was empathy that I felt. Affordable housing is an issue in our nation. It's a significant issue here in Duval
Sure.
County,
Sure.
and we've got to do more to solve this. But you know what? Right now, squatters are taking advantage, and the consequences of the fact that there is not enough housing or that these are entitled individuals, the consequences are falling right on my shoulders as an individual.
Right.
It's
Right.
not falling on the system, and we have to change that.
Right. And you were saying now in some of the material that I was reading on this particular case, and like you say, there are groups. There are, I guess you would say, professional squatters, serial
Mhm.
squatters, and that kind of thing. And she actually presented you with a fake lease.
She did, Tracy. That's part of the gig.
Hmm.
Basically, you can have any form of written documentation. There's a case in New York where someone had a lease that was fraudulent, and it was written on the back of a Christmas card. I lease this house to you, signed, and no other legal wording, documentation, or anything. That was
Wow.
enough for that to be qualified as a lead. In this case, the squatter simply downloaded a standard lead, looked at what I had previously rented the house for, which was $1,400 for a 4-bedroom house per month, and filled in those details, made up the name of a landlord. They chose Christopher Cross, which some of your listeners may know as the '70s singer of
Hey,
Sailing
yeah,
Away.
yeah.
Some theme songs for this episode, perhaps. And so Christopher Cross, and they put his address as an abandoned house somewhere on the outskirts of Jacksonville. So, and the lease was unsigned. And so there was nothing about it that was legitimate. A quick perusal of that, as the police officer did, it indicated very quickly that it's fraudulent. But his hands were tied. He was
Right, right,
handcuffed. I
right,
was handcuffed. The squatter was not.
right, right. And you mentioned earlier too about um, you know, losing sleep over it and this kind of thing, and fearful and all those emotions that come along with it. But and thinking back on that, if you were able to find out information on them, they were most certainly knew where you lived.
Absolutely. Uh, So it is very easy for them to find out where I lived. Of course, it was even written in the police report, which they were handed. And these were potentially violent individuals. I
Right.
must tell you, still to this day, when I walk outside or when I drive up to my house to get out, I do a 360 with my head.
Hmm.
I pay attention to what cars are on my street. I worry for my pets. They're outside running around my fenced-in yard right
Hmm.
now. But I got to tell you, it crosses my mind pretty routinely that someone could poison or take or harm my pets as a retaliation against me. But these squatters can be violent. And in fact, many individuals, many homeowners are choosing violence over safety every day. I did. But they are choosing it even with hiring individuals to go in and physically remove squatters. You can see where this will go. There's also other competitors that are starting to be out there, the Slaughter Squad and others. So, you know, uh, fortunately, the media is showing this epidemic of swatting. They've been very gracious to cover my story. They've covered Flash and his slaughter hunter approaches extensively. And I think we can all wonder and maybe hypothesize why I, a Democrat, uh, who was the inspiration for this bill and in fact testified and worked bipartisanly
Hmm.
with a strong right-wing representative Kevin Steele
Yes.
and
Yes.
Senator Keith Perry, now
Right.
retired, to get this bill passed.
Hmm.
We came together in a bipartisan way to find a legal and nonviolent way to get out slaughters. Why did Governor DeSantis not choose to emphasize the
Hmm.
excellent bipartisan means that we've shown here in Florida, and
Right.
instead to now showcase this bill all over in his remarks
Right.
yesterday with the people he chose to have present and on all of his news programs that he's spending a lot of time on today.
Hmm.
And in so doing, he's taunting blue states like New York and California and saying, you know, these blue states have got it all
Right.
wrong. Florida is
Right.
doing it our way, and that is
Well,
not for anyone's benefit.
right.
DeSantis missed a huge opportunity to say, you know, in Florida, we believe that everyone has rights to their own property, and look how we have done this bipartisanly.
Well,
And I'd like to invite every state in the nation that has a slaughter problem, which is 49 other states, to come to a summit here in Florida, and we're going to teach you how we did this bipartisanly.
right.
Wouldn't our nation be ever so much better if every state in the union is lifted up and works for together for the benefit of its systems?
Sure.
But no, what DeSantis is doing is showcasing this for his own personal political gain. And I got to tell you, I resent that.
Right. Right.
And I think it is small minded and selfish, short sighted, and for his own personal benefit.
Well, you described Ron DeSantis perfectly. He's got a pea brain, and frankly, since I don't have any sensors, I can tell you right now, I think the man's a dipshit, and and quite frankly, he does all the wrong things for all the wrong reasons to serve his own political gain. I mean, and plus he copies other people like his the man that he at one time worshipped, Donald Trump. He copies from the same playbook. Case in point,
He does.
case in point. You mentioned it being a bipartisan bill, which it was. In fact, 100% bipartisan support, which was by no means no small feat. And you and your small group of friends and fighters made that happen. You were instrumental in making that happen, and you're correct. You're correct in having this resentment towards the governor for taking it for his own gain. He surely has, and also
I'm
I might
sad
add.
for the citizens.
Yeah, yeah, and
Go ahead.
I
Sorry.
just before I finish up this thought here, he like I was saying, he copies stuff from that playbook. Well, you were on Fox Business talking about it, and I remember seeing one of the female anchors saying the same thing about it being a blue state
Yes.
problem, along those lines, paraphrasing, and you shut her
Yep.
down real quick.
Well, that as well as a previous comment I had made about DeSantis that he needed to stop picking a fight with Disney over property rights
Yeah,
and pay attention to the property rights of average Floridians
right.
are probably two of the main reasons that I was not invited to
Hmm.
the bill signing by the governor's office. I was invited by Representative uh, Kevin Steele, but I'm really sad for average citizens because this was such an opportunity to show that average citizens, someone like me, that's just basically a partially retired uh, person here that's living in a diverse community
Hmm.
saw something that needed to be changed and used the benefits of our local media. I give huge shout out to News 4 Jax and Action News Jax,
Right.
who covered my story from the Jump Street. And that story was picked up by Fox. I understood that Fox more than likely had other reasons for emphasizing the squatter issue, but they gave a platform for a nationwide problem. And so I took the opportunity to highlight the problem and hoped for greater change. And they played a very good role in it. And I
Hmm.
must say that every interview that I had on Fox was quite fair balanced.
Hmm.
And with the exception of that final interview on the Fox business, and with that one particular uh, anchor. So,
Right.
there is an important role that the media plays, including people like you, that showcase the issues of local problems. And
Hmm.
local problems are state problems, and state problems are federal problems. And
Sure.
we don't have a voice as a citizen unless we utilize our media. And fair balanced media reaches more people more effectively, maybe not as exciting as partisan media,
Right.
but it gets the job done in a way that lifts us all up. And you know what? We need to raise all of our ships right now, not just the ones on one side or the other. And
Hmm.
I really challenge Governor DeSantis to do the right thing.
Right. Right. In so many areas, Governor Ron needs to do the right thing. In so many areas, it's daily, almost. Well, I know he spends a lot of time in Jacksonville too. He comes here quite often. Him and Mayor
Mhm.
Lenny, former Mayor Lenny, are buddies. Uh, Now, during the process of getting this bill to the floor, getting it passed during the whole process, you had some challenges that you faced, as with any bill, and of course, with it being, back and forth across the aisle. But could you post getting the bill passed, and it doesn't go into law till July 1st, I believe. Um, uh,
Correct.
could you elaborate with us some of the specific bills within the bill, some of the specifics of it that
Sure.
address and why these particular issues were targeted. I know that's criminal behavior too, but
Yeah, really great question. So, uh, I I have worked on the outskirts of policy in the health policy arena, but I've never worked on getting a bill passed. So this
Mhm.
was a very interesting and exciting opportunity for me to both see it from a distance and to participate up close. So basically, the process started with Representative Kevin Steele put forth an initial bill in the House that addressed squatting and basically made squatting a crime from the get-go. Indicated that any sort of fraudulent documents were grounds for felony charges, and that it was a pretty quick and effective way just to evict someone if you perceive them as squatters.
Mhm.
Well, that started moving through committees. And then simultaneously, a few weeks later, Senator Keith Carey wrote his own version of the bill, which included things like the lease needs to be notarized by both parties, a few other hurdles to show whether or not a lease is fraudulent or truthful. Uh, it went through committees in the Senate and got some feedback from both sides of the aisle in both houses of government. And each of the independent bills were notably rewritten based on feedback from the right and the left in those houses. And then it goes through presentation to the committee, at which point I was invited to testify in both areas and in both the House and the Senate. Also testifying were other citizens that came from Miami-Dade area, for example, were
Mhm.
police unions and associations, were realtor associations, as well as the group called Florida Rising that that advocates for underrepresented communities, and each of them had their own issues with the
Right.
bill. One particular voice, Florida Rising, was strongly against both the bill in the House and the Senate. And the reason they were, and it's very legitimate, is they were afraid that this bill, as it was written in its draft form, could be used as a cudgel by unscrupulous landlords when they just decided they wanted to get a renter out. Maybe they
Sure,
don't like the
sure. Yeah,
color of the renter. Maybe they don't like their financial situation, and all of a sudden they can just wake up one morning and say, "Hey, Tracy, you've been in my house for 6 months, but I don't like you today, and I'm going to declare you a slaughter, and I'm calling 911." And the bill, as it had been written in draft form, didn't have enough protections for that situation. And Florida Rising raised that. And I'm telling you, the representative and the senator heard that.
hmm
And they talked to me about that. And it was edited to take into that account. And it also had things written in there from the Realtor Association who said, hey, another issue that we've got is that you've got people that just get the house deed for a house that they see. And it was very easy for you just to request a house deed, whether or not you own the house. And then you could pretend you own that house and you could sell it. So you could come home one day and somebody has sold your house, or you could come home and somebody had rented your house. And so the Realtor Association said, this is another issue. It's not really squatting, but it's closely related, and we need to roll this in. And
right.
so the senator and the representative did. So this is a very multifaceted bill that heard the concerns of all of these uh, people on all sides. And
Makes
I
sense.
think this is such something to be lauded. This is the way good legislation works. And I
Sure.
commend the senator and the representative for being open minded and not living in their politics, but trying to get something past common sense. And they did. And you know what the vote was at the end? Was 100% bipartisan. And Florida Rising, the most nay voice amongst the groups who didn't have the voting rights, obviously, in the House and the Senate, said, we will not stand in the way of this bill.
Right.
So citizens can have a
Kudos.
problem. Citizens can influence bills, and legislatures can listen to you. Don't give up on this.
Yeah. That
Talk
was
to your representative.
exactly. And that was actually what I was going to segue in for this next question was about change makers. What advice would you give to individuals who are looking to drive legislative change on whatever topic it might be, concerns that people
Yep.
have when it comes to housing or pets or whatever. What can people do within their own states or fields of expertise?
Yep. Well, the first thing that I think that the average citizen needs to do is to recognize that you have power, you
Mm,
have a voice. So obviously, live in your own responsibility for the betterment of where you live, not only locally but statewide and nationwide. Be part of the process, not just a naysayer. The second thing is get get educated a little bit. I didn't know a single thing about any of this, and I I had to take myself to school. I've talked to people that knew more than me. I spent time on the internet learning.
hmm
I made some mistakes and learned that way. But, I tried to educate myself. I didn't just speak without facts or knowledge.
Right.
And the third thing is be respectful of those that have an alternative view. Listen to them, engage with them, find points of common ground.
Certainly.
Change doesn't happen when it's a he said, she said. So I listened to people that said, I think you should just get a gun or get some goons and go
Yeah.
in there.
Right.
And I said, well, I am not comfortable with that. If
Right.
if what else can I do that keeps
Sure.
me on the right side of the law, because I knew the minute that I was racist, homophobic, uh, negative, and or I broke a law,
Right.
that my whole integrity would have been undermined. So I tried to stand in the place of ethics and integrity
Sure.
and fight it that way. Fifth, talk to your local press.
Oh,
Get them
absolutely.
involved. And your local press wants to know what your local problems are, and document your challenges. So those are 5 tips that I have to be a participating citizen. Number 6 is a no-brainer. Go to the polls.
Oh, absolutely. And as far as I'm concerned, you better vote blue.
I don't care, Tracy. I'm not going to say that. I'm a strong Democrat. I know you are a strong Democrat.
Absolutely.
But the fact of the matter is not voting is worse than
Mhm.
voting on the other side.
That's true.
I think you need to vote for where your heart stands, and you need to vote with knowledge.
Yeah.
We need to vote.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I actually was a lifelong Republican, to be honest with you. And actually, in 2015, I entered the race for city council in Jacksonville as a Republican. I about halfway into the campaign, you can't really change to Democrat then, but you can change to no party. Well, I tell you, I did. I changed to no party about halfway into my campaign. And when you go from Republican to no party, the spigot turns off. When you're
Yeah, it's a no man's land in Duval.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people that have been interested in
Yeah.
me running for
Hmm.
office after this situation. And it's something to be considered. It's something to be pondered.
Sure.
I am so happy with Jimmy Peluso, who represents our district on the city council, and I think he is.
Actually, your district is the one I ran for because I was living downtown at the time. And Jimmy
Mhm.
is going to be on this podcast in about a week and a half.
Well, tell him I said hello.
I
Tell him
will.
I thank him for his fine and involved representation. And maybe I'll just in consideration to
Yeah.
some sort of office, if I can figure out what the best avenue and where my skills and my knowledge and
Hmm.
experience are best utilized. But I got to tell you, this process was educational, and it made me hopeful,
Hmm.
more so than just about anything I've been engaged in the last decade.
Right.
So that's a good thing to be hopeful about your government.
Right. Right. Well, I tell you, the Mayor Deegan's administration, her being at the lead of it, she has brought aboard the new administration a very diverse bunch.
She
A
has.
super bunch of people, and she continues to bring new people on for different committees and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And they are going to have a healthcare czar, if it will. Um, I know that's was talked about during the campaign, and
Mhm.
Stephen Darrett and I talked about that at great length. But
Yeah.
that was part of her campaign. So she continues to do great things with the administration. I see a
Yeah.
lot of good things happening down there.
I tell you, with the health star, we really, really need, of course, I've worked in the field of health economics
Hmm.
and public policy as it relates to appropriate, affordable, and equitable access of health for the bulk of my career. And this is what my doctorate is in. And we need someone that believes in science, that understands how to review evidence, and understands how to work across the aisle uh, with individuals who are fighting their own healthcare battles because are they are on the outskirts of access,
Hmm. Yes.
And we have got to do much, much better in this city for delivering access to every single one of our citizens and utilizing science to drive our decision making.
Sure, sure. So here's that shout out to Donna Deegan. Donna, give Patty a call. There
Mayor
you go.
Deegan, thank you for doing your work, and it would be my honor.
Well, there you go. There you go. There you go. Well, I tell you, it's been a joy having you on the program, but I've got one last question for you, and we're going to get a little bit lighthearted.
Okay.
All right. All right. I'm going to throw this out there, and it's been a burning debate in the city of Jacksonville going on right now. It seems to be a burning issue anyway. A lot of people have opinions about it. Taco bars and craft beer. How much of that do we need?
Cut out a little bit. Say it one more time, Tracy.
Taco bars and craft beer. How much of that do we really need?
I tell you what, there is. I really spent some time on thinking about your hashtag for that, which I think you put for hashtag Taco-opolis. Is that right?
Yeah. I got that from somebody. Yeah.
I tell you what, we need diversity in all things in our life. And I think tacos and craft beer are occupying too much of the pie in food and drink in Jacksonville. So bring on the slow bar, the spa bars, bring on, any other ethnicity and their specialized foods. I mean, heck, bring on some difference.
Yeah, I know. I love a good taco, and there's some very good, yeah, and there's some good craft breweries out there, and a lot of them. But also, I realize, and one of the arguments on the other side, is what's the difference? Small businesses are opening, and I get that. And post-pandemic, however, a lot of small businesses were closing, and that would include a couple of very popular craft breweries, Lemon Street and Tabula Rasa. They both closed for their own reasons.
Hyperion just closed its doors.
Hyperion just closed
this weekend.
Yep. And you know what? There'll be more. They keep coming because Randy Peterson, who owned Tabula Rasa, I know that he is still auctioning off or selling off some of the brewing equipment. I do believe that he's
right.
I do believe that he has sold most of it, but he's still hawking off some of the tanks and, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, my favorite craft brewery he's still here in Springfield, historically hoppy, my neighbor across the street.
Oh, yeah.
Both of the neighbors own it, and it is an outstanding, family-oriented, wonderful, wonderful location with great beer. Nevertheless, I think whenever anyone opens a business in Jacksonville, I think if they don't do enough good competitive intelligence, and I'm going to give a shout out right now for the wonderful resources that are available at the Chamber of Commerce that are all completely free, as well as the Small Business Administration that's located out of the University of North Florida. And if anybody's interested, I'm going to be giving a talk here in Springfield about all of these free business resources for small businesses and how to grow and scale your company. I started a small business here in Jacksonville about 20 years ago. And I grew the business to a multi-million-dollar enterprise and sold it to the top 10 tech company in the country, and then was able to retire. I learned a few things along the way, but I tell you, I could never have gotten to that point without the outstanding mentoring I received from CEO mentoring groups that initially started out of the Chamber of Commerce and the Jacksonville Women's Business Center, as well as for individuals that gave me their time and knowledge free of charge from the Small Business Administration. So anyone, if you're thinking about, or if you currently own a small business, educate yourself.
Yep.
If you can see the theme through everything I do is you've got to understand your
Right.
environment. You've got to engage with other people and
Right.
learn from other people. You've got to be curious and you got to do your homework. And quite frankly, I'm not sure the banks who funded the new taco place that's going to be at Black Sheep did much of their own research on the competitive environment when they launched that business loan to them. So this goes for banks too.
Yeah. Well, the Black Sheep restaurant was a favorite of mine.
Yeah, me
Couple years
too.
back when I lived closer to town then, or was staying there most of the time. And yeah, I frequented that place and loved it, and the food was awesome. And they just happened, things happen. I'm sure the rent there is astronomical because it's a pretty nice building, popular building,
Yeah,
popular location. And I got to tell you that bar taco or whatever that's going in there now, um, they're not just a taco joint. That's an upscale taco establishment that
yeah,
just happens to have the word taco in its name. So
yeah.
I'm quite certain that when you go in there, you're not going to get $5 tacos.
No, absolutely not. And of course, you'll probably get the most profitable of these, which are $15 cocktails that have
Yeah, yeah.
a profit of, of about 50% or more. Food does not run with that profit margin. But listen, I think you join me as well as all your listeners join in wishing them nothing but success.
Yeah,
I plan to be a frequent visitor of it. I
sure.
keep my dollars downtown. I spread them around beyond Springfield, but most
Hmm.
of the time I support my local places right here that I can
Yeah.
walk to or bicycle to. But I am cheering them on,
Hmm.
and I'm also cheering on any other small business owner.
Absolutely, absolutely. I worked quite a bit downtown for the last several years. That was my stomping grounds during the day, and almost 3 times a week, I would say, when I was actually doing my running around down there in the Riverside area. Um, Almost, I would say, at least 3 times a week, I would eat at Mossfire. I would walk in the
Oh,
I would sit
love Mustang.
I would sit down at the table, and Scooter would just walk over and say, "Are you going to have such and such and such today?" And I'm like, "Yeah, well, let's go with that." She wouldn't even bring me a menu because I was there so much. Yeah,
That's the best.
I
That's
know.
the best. That's what I love about our Springfield businesses it's like walking into Cheers, where you know everybody that's there, they know you, and you have your favorites.
Yeah,
It's small town living in downtown Jacksonville,
yeah.
but it's small town living in a great and growing and extraordinary city that is at the precipice of good things. And I'm excited for Mayor Deegan continuing to lead the way, and I'm excited for the city council that's playing a good role.
Yeah.
And I'm excited that that you showcase people that are making it work.
Yeah. That's what I like to do. That's what I like to do. And I tell you, it has been a fantastic discussion that we've had today. You have been a joy as a guest, very informative, and thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you so much. Have you got any final thoughts before we go?
I don't think so, Tracy. I think you have conducted a magnificent interview. I appreciate the platform, and I appreciate the easy conversation. You're a great interviewer, so keep it up.
Well, thank you so much. And you are welcome, like I tell almost everybody. You're welcome back here anytime.
Good deal. Well, thank you, and I look forward to seeing and hearing the episode when it runs.
Okay.
All the best.
Well, that's a wrap. Another fantastic episode of the podcast. You can find us on all the social media platforms, wherever you surf: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter X, Threads, wherever. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. And on our YouTube channel, don't forget to like, share, comment, and smash that subscribe button. If you're streaming audio for the podcast, you can find us wherever you get your favorite podcast programs. In the meantime, I like to tell everybody, take care of yourselves and each other. Until next time, peace.